One of the large jobs on this restoration project, unfortunately, is the suspension. Part of the problem is down to the nature of its design, where it incorporates a large amount of phosphor bronze bushes and pins, which are prone to dirt getting into them and damaging them. Again, due to the vehicle's age, we found that quite a few of the dirt extrusion seals have been damaged, and then the dirt has found its way into the bearings. So what we're actually doing at the moment, and unfortunately it's a very long-winded painstaking job, is we're dismantling all the suspension components. There are 10 of these levers in the vehicle, plus there's 5 springs, plus bogie assemblies, wheels. This is being cleaned at the moment. We've had a first stage clean with a power washing, which has got most of the surface dirt off, and then we're going down into more detailed cleaning now of the bushes and some of the other components. There's a lubrication system. This will be dismantled shortly. This is a greasing tube, which will be full of old congealed grease, so we've got to get that completely clean. And some of these pins that you can see here mount some of the suspension rubber bump stops. Again, that's another problem we find on this vehicle due to its age. A lot of the rubber components have basically failed, so they've either gone basically very hard, or the other way, they just break up and crumble. So I say, unfortunately, it's just a very long-winded, slow job, but we have to do it. It's essential to make the vehicle run properly again. Andy, my colleague here, is just cleaning one of the bogie assemblies. This is the basic bogie truck, which has the axles, a pivot pin, and then the track rollers are fitted in between there. We've got to clean them up basically so we can do some quick measurements. And one of the things we need to establish is whether over the years any of the damage that's been done on the vehicle has knocked any of these pins out of line, which again makes it running correctly when the vehicle's reassembled. Basically he's just doing it. Hand cleaning is the only way to do it at this stage. We will shop bash them later. We won't want to do too much to them at the moment until we've got the measurements and we've checked that the pins are correct.
We spent a lot of time cleaning these bogie units, and also you can sort of see before and after here. This one we've shot blasted and painted with red oxide. But we've also spent a huge amount of time, because the pins were such a tight fit in these holes. Once we'd knocked them out, we found that the condition of the pins was pretty poor. This is sort of typical of what we found. They're very dirty, they're scored, and we spent a lot of time cleaning these up and polishing them with emery paper and wet and dry with oil on. So very, very time consuming. And we've ended up with, I mean, this isn't perfect and completely finished, but you can see the difference. This is clean, polished. Some of them have got scores in, which we've had to machine out. But generally speaking, the pins are usable. We haven't had to remanufacture any, thank heavens. But yeah, that's been a lot of labour, cleaning out these holes, rubbing them endlessly with emery, just to get a nice sliding fit for these, which is the way they would have been manufactured. Quite a tight fit. And as I said before, that in itself, you put it on a tank working in dirty conditions is a problem. What we have here is what they call the top roller bearings. Now these support the top run of the track. All of these bearings needed replacing, no surprise there. There's 12 on each side, inner and outer, so there's 12 on each side, 24 in total. All solid metal. What we did find when we started to examine them carefully, to undo them, it's a simple thread here, and you insert a tool into these holes and undo them. But of course, it's not quite as simple as that with this vehicle, because what they've done in service is they've done them up, fully tightened them up, and then they'd welded in 3 places, presumably, we can only assume, because they came loose and they came undone, and it was the only way they could prevent them coming undone in service. But the problem we had, of course, is that by cutting into the weld, we are damaging the roller. We're damaging the thread and we're damaging the outer case. So it was quite tricky to cut just enough metal away to release the 2 halves so we could get at the bearing inside. The top rollers, the purpose of the top rollers is to support the top run of the track, which would be inside this outer armour plate. As I said before, there's 12 on each side. You've got an inner one and an outer one, but they're way up here inside the hull, and inevitably they're going to get a lot of dirt up here, and it says in the manual, surprisingly, try not to get them covered in mud. Now that's not very realistic, I'm sure you'd agree. In fact, later on, as they developed the vehicle, they got rid of these altogether and just put metal skid plates. So they obviously realised that these were more trouble than they were worth. So the later ones, as I say, didn't have these at all.